A gente está vendo agora na Europa essa onda migratória gigantesca por razões horríveis, que é a onda migratória dos ucranianos. A Europa viu recentemente, um pouco antes disso, aquela enorme onda migratória dos sírios, também por causa da guerra. Muita gente na Europa costuma fazer uma oposição, apresentar a imigração, a vontade das pessoas de irem para países ricos europeus, como um problema para o estado de bem-estar social europeu e até para o contrato social dos países europeus. A minha pergunta para a senhora é a seguinte: qual a sua visão? A imigração, ela é sempre um problema, ela é de fato um problema por uma questão de custos, de problema de recepção dessas pessoas para um estado de bem-estar social bem montado, ou ela pode, de alguma maneira, trazer também contribuições para esses estados e para esses contratos?
Yeah. So you're quite right that migration is hugely controversial. And the reason I think it's controversial is it boils down to the question of when do we let people from other countries join our social contract? When do they get to get jobs, get benefits, get their children benefiting from education? And that's essentially the controversy. When do they get to be a member of our society and citizens and have the benefits of citizenship? Now, I would make a distinction between kind of humanitarian refugees, like the situation with Ukraine and Syria, and economic migration. Most economic studies show that economic migration tends to benefit the society, that economic migrants tend to pay in more than they take out. They tend to be of working age, and that is often what the economic evidence says. Now, socially and politically, it can be a problem, even if the economics says that. And what I think tends to be, when you look across different countries, the problems happen not so much if you have low levels of migration, but if you have sudden increases. So it's the pace of change rather than the level of migration that tends to cause political tensions. In the case of humanitarian refugees, I think in some ways the current crisis has really shown the best of society, that people have been very welcoming and open to trying to provide support. I think over the medium term, it has to be well managed to be successful. Germany is a really good example, who took in about 1 million Syrian refugees. But they did quite a good job of providing 6 months of language training so people could learn German, providing housing and training, and getting people into work. And where it's well managed, it can actually be economically beneficial and socially acceptable. But if it's not managed well, it can be a source of great political tension.
Só completar uma coisa. É desejável que a gente caminhe para um mundo mais aberto e com maior migração, parecido com o que a gente tinha no século XIX, por exemplo, que era quase que livre movimentação de trabalhadores? A senhora acha isso desejável?
Yeah, it's how can I put it? If you were looking at the economically optimal thing to do in the world, most economic research shows that migration is beneficial because people move to where new opportunities are and they're able to use their skills better and so on. But the politics and the social consequences of migration are very difficult. And it again, as I said, it boils down to when do people from outside get to join our social contract? And I think that is something that has to be decided within each society. How much migration does a society want? And when that's decided, it needs to be managed properly. Otherwise, you risk having huge social tensions. And in the end, those tensions undermine people's willingness to participate in the social contract. Because if they feel that others are benefiting who aren't entitled, it creates huge resentments. And so I think that process has to be very carefully managed, and there has to be a social consensus around migration.